Start. Ok, bentornati a tutti, bentornati. Oggi abbiamo, l'altra volta abbiamo il mio amico messicano e adesso abbiamo Renato Peneluppi, che è un amico di un amico, ma soprattutto è una persona che sta lavorando molto bene in ambito di bridging tra Cina e Brasile. Lui è brasiliano. Welcome Renato.
Buonasera, ciao.
Buonasera, buonasera a tutti in GENDA GIADA. Adesso passo a parlare, poi vi metterò i sottotitoli come al solito, però passo a parlare mi piacerebbe parlare brasiliano, però so dire poche parole, so dire solo saudaci. But no, let's speak English and let's explain. Thank you for having us, Renato. And I explain you. I would like you to explain. What is your core activity here in China?
Well, first of all, Johnny, thank you very much for having me here. It's a pleasure to be here with your public. Thank you for guys to watch, everything we're gonna share here today about BRICS. My name is Renato Peneluppi. I'm from Brazil. I've been in China since 2010. I did my master degree, PhD around here about public administration. I'm a lawyer back in Brazil, and I do some consulting here. I've been doing some business aside, and one of my businesses consultants for think tanks. So working with think tanks, we've been developing a lot of relations with the BRICS platform, especially as a Brazilian. So since 2002, I've been working in the forums, the summits, and my role is basically support the relation between Brazil and China. Now for the last, I'm the president of the Brazilian Citizens Council and the embassy. So I help to bridge the embassy with the public, with the community, Brazilian community in China. So I think with my whole experience, I can share a bit of what is BRICS all about and how is the Brazilian-China relation can contribute to this whole.
Okay. Just to give you an idea of what you actually do. Talking about the BRICS, which is actually the really core argument probably today. I think, in my opinion, that Brazil is the most solid country in the group of the BRICS. Sometimes, in particular, the people that have a sort of disillusion, for the possibility for this chance. But the thing is that actually Brazil, probably together with China, is the principal country. In fact, we have the let's say the BRICS Bank. You will explain better than me, and who is responsible for the bank is Gilma Mendez, which is very important. Also person really close to, been really close for a long time with President Lula. So you want to explain actually what is going on in China with the Brazilian presence, in particular there in Shanghai.
All right. So, I think, first of all, your opinion is very interesting. There are diverse ideas about, who is the key player on BRICS, especially because, originally we were 4 countries, and then South Africa was invited in 2000, and I think 10, if I'm not wrong now. So when South Africa came to the group, we became 5 countries, which initially was just economical, nomination, just a reference for countries that would develop in the future, and finally became what we see today, cooperation mechanism that emerged as a transformative platform to redefine global governance. So as a platform, the BRICS has been developing as an organization and has its bank. Its bank is the result of and that comes every year we have the summit of BRICS. And the summit bring all those countries together, and they try to propose solutions for the global market, or for the global financial system, or for the relation of nations from the global south. So if we remember back in 2001, when it's just a name, and then with the progress, BRICS became something that really started to take a role in the world was after the 2008 financial crisis. In that moment, the world needs a solution for the market to keep flowing. So that's when the four first countries came together in Ekaterinburg and the dialogue. And since then, like became kind of a practice to reunite it. It was in 2014 when we finally came together in the BRICS meetings in Brazil, and we proposed the construction of the new development bank, the Bank of BRICS that we call, right? So why
Yes.
is it like, yes, yeah, were you asking? So yeah,
No, no, no. Go ahead. I was confirming your.
so NDB, like New Development Bank, the BRICS banks, is called New Development because those countries they saw that like to overcome the financial crisis was important to create a new tool, a new system that could finance the development of the global south. Because the old structures, the old system proposed by IMF or the World Bank was not really fitting to reality because it was established in the basis of the neoliberalism. So, like the conditions and the impositions were very tough for the development of the global south. So, for the new development bank, we come with like a new type of arrangements, with a new type of ways to finance, to structuralize the world economy. So the first step to create the bank was to define a location and, of course, define the contingent reserve arrangement, what they call the CRA. This contingent, it has the role to be like kind of the savings, the what is the money to support those countries in times of crisis if they repeat again, right? So the NDB has like around like $100 billion as a saving, and these like bases, and this like headquarter was defined in Shanghai. So the first president was supposed to be a Brazilian. So Brazil, in a gesture of unification of the four starting countries, and then like the fifth, like with South Africa, proposed to pass its first presidency to India because India and China was in constant like conflict. So to bring an Indian president would like minimize the conflict. And then we had the presidency of the bank in that time. So nowadays, for the last 2 years, we have the former president of Brazil, Gilma Rousseff, as the president. And the role of the bank is mostly to think structures and systems to finance development in the global south. Most of the development being structuralized is for investments in sustainability or like environmental issues, especially renewable energy, has been one of the key, like for research or for implementation of projects. We also had like one of the first time last year when we have a disaster in Brazil. We had like a big flood in the south. More than 300 cities were destroyed with this big flood. So it was the first time that the bank made supporting for like reconstruction. It was $1 billion like sent it to the south of Brazil. So I think like as a general idea of what is the bank and what is the bank doing in Shanghai is basically that they are thinking how to restructure the financial system. So since 2008, the BRIC group is trying to propose and requesting a reform of the financial system. We believe that the financial system need to be reformed, be readapted to develop what we call the global south. So I think like this gives like a first introduction for us to keep our talk. What do you think?
I want to tell you, yes, why I think that Brazil is in the best position in, let's say, a leading role. Of course, in the BRICS, there is not really a leading role, and probably China aspires in some way to have that image, at least, that kind of mienza. But the thing is this, okay, maybe we touch actually each one of these aspects. First, in this moment, the geographical position of Brazil, in the way that Latin America is creating the balance between United States and China in particular, but anyway, between United States and let's say, I mean, all the rest of the world, but Latin America, even if, we have a particular case with Argentina, definitely also respect to some things that are happening in the Middle East, it's playing a core role of balance, both politically and both socially. The second reason is that the power of the President Lula, which is a really important figure. I always remember to the people that even if sometimes Lula is considered kind of like an enemy of United States, mostly because the other one was good friend, which I don't want to mention. But the thing is that even President Obama, it's really famous to say, "Oh, I really like President Lula." So Lula is a really strong image and clean. Plus, the population of Brazil difference from basically the main country, all the main countries is very young. So this open perspective to innovation, open perspective also to the possibility to manage the conflicts in a more confident way. I want to tell you in this way. And also gives interesting perspective to the future. Then there is also another, I think, really important element that make Brazil unique respect to the other countries that they are in the BRICS. I mean, in particular, the funding member of the BRICS, because now BRICS Plus is open to Middle East. But in this moment, there is no sanctions upon Brazil, not heavy as the one that we have for Russia, for example, for China, and related to India, as you mentioned. There is always this kind of dance with China because there is sometimes conflicts, and of course this affects the economy. I've been working before the pandemic. I've been working several times in India. Sometimes we have guests from India here in the channel, and we explain how it's always been complicated, to try to create a bridge between China and a business bridge between China and India. Just because the thing is they hover it very fast, and so that's quite complicated. This is why I tell you there is all these 5 elements. The age of population, the political situation, the image of the leadership, the position in Latin America, that they make Brazil, a really core country for this innovation, this incredible innovation that the potential of innovation that BRICS is bringing to the world. And I would like to know your opinion about that.
Yeah, I think you go through interesting passes. Like, for example, when you talk about the aspect that China and Brazil play important role in BRICS, it's undeniable, especially right now. I think China, with the strength of its economy, it's a key partner for any bloc that you're taking part. Brazil is with the population, with the size, the influence, especially with the influence of the leader right now. Lula is an international statesman, right? As you said, Obama, when he called him, that's the man, that's the guy, that's the leader we needed, right? I think he has this appeal. There's this soft power intrinsic in Brazilian political intervention worldwide speaking. So yes, I agree that they have we have these 2 big giants. They're cooperating inside of BRICS. India indeed has its challenge and its democracy itself, the size, and this role between Asia, Western countries, even the dependence on militarily on Russia. So it really puts India in a gray zone that's hard to read because it depends on too many elements to really define and position it itself. But for the fact that still there, it's still working on its pace, it works on its timing. It plays a role. It plays an important role. I think if BRICS has not been sanctioned so far as hard as Trump would like to, part of this is because India is in this group, so he has some influence and favor somehow the bloc. Russian itself, we know, it's in a conflict. It's it's kind of exile from Europe, so it is a complication factory. It's actually a player that's always pushing to the growth of the bloc, or for the increase, or for the reform of the financial system to accelerate so we can get out of this struggle with with this embargo, with the sanctions, right? So I think like that's the key roles there. South Africa is right now also going through an isolation, is having some political internal movements, which before United
Turmoil, yeah.
States, yeah, it's like being faced by United States with a threat, and so like it's also getting in the gray zone for as Russia for US. So like we don't know where it's gonna go. So indeed, like who has the strength to keep it up or balance the BRICS is mainly China and Brazil. And at this point, I agree with you. But even Brazil, we have a vulnerability of also our political system. For example, the last president that was elected, I'm not going to say his name here, but well, the last president before Lula now, like he was really against BRICS. He was too pro United States. He was even saluting the American flag. So for us was big shame. So his role was to distance Brazil from BRICS. And that can happen again. Like if we get like a leader that's not so close to the interest of BRICS, it will see this movement. Right now, there's a lot of criticism inside of Brazil saying that actually Brazil could be doing much more to accelerate the strengthening of BRICS. But because of our ambassador, or because of our foreign affairs, we are not progressing as much as we could. Actually, the Brazilian government is in dispute, is not fully there. So, like, for example, we were supposed to be the summit of BRICS last year. So we give the preference to G20, not to BRICS. So we transfer presidents to this year. That's why this year is the BRICS year in Brazil. So we pushed the BRICS meeting this year to the beginning of the first semester. Actually, we're gonna have now in the beginning of July. It usually is in the end of the year, and we are doing that because we will have the COP30 in Brazil in the second semester. So again, there is a clash of interests inside of the foreign affairs of Brazil. So a lot of people are pointing this as a vulnerable position of the Brazilian leadership in BRICS. So we could be doing much more. We could be progressing more, but there's a different interest. And I think you play something very important. Brazil is in foreign affairs as internal affairs. It has two important policies: the social progress, the social development, so taking people out of poverty, and the environment, the sustainability. Those are the two main points. That's where actually China and Brazil has been meeting quite often in their international policies and the bilateral relations. Most of the policies, if you look at it, of course, taking the business aside, it will be on environment, on sustainability, like social sustainability too. So this is a key engine of the foreign affairs. If you see the G20 in Brazil last year, the strengthening of Brazilian intervention was in the social affairs and the environmental. So that's where Brazil is going. Like it's moving according to its interests, which is natural. Like I think countries doesn't have friends; they have interests. So if the interests collide, they will collide. If they cooperate, they cooperate. So what we're trying to build with BRICS is more than like collide or cooperate or partnering, but we're trying to build a structure, a platform where the countries can rebuild the economy or the financial system in a way that will be free. So a lot of people talk about de-dollarization. I don't think that's even fair. I think dollar has been playing an important role for the last 70, 80 years. They're like, okay, let it play. But what we're trying to do right now is to create an independent financial system where the countries can be really sovereign, like they can govern themselves, they can make their choice. Because as you place it, there's a lot of sanctions. There are sanctions going. So sanctions can be something useful, but can be something very unfair. It can be something to isolate countries. For example, Cuba. Cuba is already under 70 or more years, maybe 80 years already under sanction. It's a small island with very few people, which cannot develop its economy because everybody's forbidden to have business with them. If you agree or not with the political system, you cannot condemn generations for one financial system that can struggle countries. So we gotta give the permission for countries to make their own options, their own choices. So I think that's the role of BRICS, to give this the world new ways to do business. So business is essential.
Alternative.
Yeah, that's
Also because in
alternative.
business, alternative creates demand. Actually, this. I mean, sometimes having competitors. This is really silly by United States, actually, to say it
Exactly.
straight. But to not having competitors is at the core of democracy. If I have a competitor, I improve. I'm challenged to make better. So I want to have a short question before going back to China and Brazil. What's the Today is 10 June. While we are recording, what's the relationship in this moment? How's the relationship in this moment between United States and Brazil?
Well, the relation between United States and Brazil right now, I think, is more in a standby. We are we were living under strong pressure until last year when it was Democrats. Democrats was pushing and like trying to stimulate Brazil to step away from China. So a lot of the proposals or like relations that Brazil could have done in the first 2 years of the Lula government was not done because there was a strength, like a strong pressure from United States. After the election of Trump, we're standing by waiting for what is to come because there is a lot of threats. There's a lot of threats. I think that's the word. We've been like threatening. I think as most of the world with like this financial like issue or like taxes over like and also like the modus operandi of United States is always in the direction of, oh, you do what I want, or like are really gonna cause you trouble. The president of the BRICS banks today, the NDB, Gilma Rousseff, she was put it down by like a organized coup coming from abroad. So we are always scared that that can repeat. This process keeps repeating. As you place at the beginning, like South America, Latin America is always under the shade of like United States. We're considered by them like the back garden. So like we always gotta operate our international policy trying to deal with these strengths, this power that they have. We cannot deny what they have. So, and that's the way they organize their presence in the world. So we got to find a way to deal. The majority of senates and deputies in Brazil, they are like aligned with the United States interests. So we don't have a president that operates the full interests of like the Congress. So he has to mediate. He has to balance a lot of these interests. So I think like when it comes to Trump right now, like Lula is fighting back when he spoke it and pushing away when he can. He's like moving close to Europe. He's moving close to all this. I think we are operating trying to build as multilateral as we can. We're trying to strengthen Latin America. Just recently, Lula came to China for the CELAC, like the Latin American and Caribbean meeting with China to develop some deals that like in favor like the whole continent. Just like more recently, he went to France, did a very strong meeting and exchange with the French government. So I think like the relation with the
Once
United States.
Macron said, excuse me, interrupt. Once Macron, I think more than 1 year ago, but Macron said that he was thinking that France could join the BRICS, which was quite shocking.
Yeah,
I
that
don't know
was
if you remember, but of course, if
well,
one European country will join the BRICS, it's going to be like,
yeah,
I
this
mean, a
global
waterfall.
south. Yeah, like we saw this comment in that time. We discussed a lot, but we believe that like BRICS is for global south. It's to work where like development haven't arrived. I think when Africa really develop itself and like then I think it will be fair to invite them over. But like for now, we still have to develop places that were French colonies. So like this is important to do, right? So we can bring to the table equal parts. We actually are doing a deal with Europe. We're trying to bring Mercosur, which is like Brazil, Argentina, Uruguay. Venezuela was part of it, not anymore. Some other countries are coming around, and we were trying to integrate it to the European Union or Eurozone, actually. But in the end, France, the French farmers was the first ones to step on and say, "Not here." So we have this this relationship with France where we really have a good relation. We really see them like uh, you know like I would say like partners for a lot of things, but like we also have like clash of interests that like make our relationship not so deep as it should, like, or it could. But in fact, like I don't think it fits European like country right now in BRICS. I cannot say for the future, but for now, we really have a lot of poor countries and developing countries to integrate, to find solutions. So it's not a matter of like this or that, but like is that the role right now is to integrate and strengthen like the global south.
Brazil, as you explained really well, some internal division. This is actually in some way mirroring. No, it's under the scope since several years, the division inside of your country, because it's something that United States they mirror with themselves. But I want to know what's the relationship with the other countries in Latin America, if there is an
Oh,
alliance actually, because I
yeah,
really often I see that there is, but
yeah, that's a beautiful question. Like that's like actually, uh, uh, I think like some knowledge that very few explore. Like South America has like a deep
later,
connection.
yeah.
And when it comes to the sense of culture or relation, for example, I can travel South America, especially just with the ID, which is like very facilitated, very easy to travel around. But the roads they interconnect, it's very bad. We don't have good like infrastructure connecting, and flights are not cheap neither. So like it's not easy to see South Americans traveling here and there. Like you see them, but like usually political actors or like somebody working for a big corporation or entity that operates politics. Um, we have like in the past like a very important organization that was UNASUR, that was trying to unify the South American like countries to create a political economical bloc with the parliament and everything, but it quite kind of collapsed, let's say, because like we had that decade that we had a lot of leaders that were ideological very aligned, which was the time of Evo Morales, like Hugo Chavez, Lula, first and second government, Kirchner's and like the wife and husband, like, and I think like both, like, I mean, most of the countries in that time was well aligned. Right now, we have a new wave, a wave of alliance too. A lot of countries are in the same, like, I think, page in history, but it's still some countries out of there. Like for example, Argentina was invited to BRICS back in 2023, and it was like a very good time in Brazil, China, Brazil, Argentina relation. And in the end, like they didn't accept getting in when Milei came to power. And Milei not just did that. Milei broke a tradition where like presidents from Brazil and Argentina, when they assume, the first thing that they do, they visit each
Mm.
other, right? So he was the
Yeah,
first
I know.
Argentinian who never came visit the president. So it's like we have a real brotherhood with Argentinians, really a brotherhood with them. But this ideological perspective is trying to break this union that we have historically, right? And this is sad because like presidents will pass, but the countries will be there, like, and people
But
are
I heard
growing.
that in Argentina, I have some friends that I met recently because of their wedding, and one is American, one is Russian. It's a couple. And actually they've been living in Argentina up until now that they're moving, and they told me that the economy is actually a disaster.
Yeah, that's the point. Like, yeah, I didn't want to go there, but like once you touch it,
Uh,
yeah, like the country's going in a disaster there.
That's what they said.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah. So,
I don't know, keep going. Like, just give me more. Like,
but anyway, but at least he has a chainsaw. Anyway, okay. Now let's go back to China. So, what? Give me a list of main business transitions that are happening between Brazilian companies and entrepreneurs and China. What's the main things that are happening between the two countries?
well, I'll try to make a short like resume of the whole history. If you look at back in 2004, Brazil-China relation was something that not even in the radar. Like from that moment on, like the governments they create like what we call COSBAN, which is a kind of like a reference relation where every 2 years they make a new plan of relationship, and usually is headed by the vice president of both countries, and they have 12 different topics that they work on. So since like 2004 to 2009, this relation was so qualitative that we jumped from like an insignificant market to like our top economical partner. Since then, like since just engage it even more. Of course, the agribusiness is like the group of the most like benefit from it. So if you look like right now in China, most of the agribusiness is like one of the top relation between China and Brazil. I think the stability comes from the volume of capital, from the, I think also like the volume of demand established for like workers or anything else. And also like we had like a great increase of like students, like this progressive like development of BRICS, or the Brazilian China relation, or the China like development itself. It's like being attracting more and more scientists or like students to China. So this is one of the biggest groups you find here. When it comes to translators or like people that work in the market of Brazil, China specifically, you will find the increase of numbers of universities. There is around like 56 universities in China that teach Portuguese. It's still influence of Portugal. Many of them still teaching Portuguese from Portugal. But like most of the people are like graduating before to work in South Africa, I mean Angola, Mozambique market. Now it's more Brazilian market, and we have great professionals, people that like really have already like create like key materials. So it's increasing the translation of books to Portuguese and to Chinese. So this exchange is happening. The contracts, like if you get like the last two visits, the visit of Xi Jinping to Brazil and the visit to Lula now to China, you see that there is like most of the agreements are in the business section. So there's coffee, like the increase of coffee. When you talk about Luckin, if you drink Luckin coffee anywhere in China, you are sure that you're drinking Brazilian coffee.
Yeah, okay, okay. Just to explain to the audience, Luckin Coffee è praticamente Starbucks cinese.
Yeah,
Even if there is a
exactly.
lot of Starbucks here, but Luckin Coffee è il Starbucks cinese.
Yeah, that's
Go ahead.
perfect words. Yeah, like that's it. It's like this Chinese Starbucks that's growing a lot and is trying to slowly gain market. And like Chinese, if you get China 10 years ago, 15 years ago, they didn't drink as half as coffee as they drink right now. And this is opening market for Brazil. Like Brazil government and China, they are setting like many agreements in this direction. So food exchange is being something like that really keeps us hold. Another thing is also like raw materials, like minerals. So there's a lot of exchanging minerals. Brazil is trying to propose a new step. There is like one key sector that Brazil and China always cooperate, and it seems like you're going to increase this cooperation, which is the space technology. There was a time that not many countries were willing to share technology with China, and in that time, Brazil was well developed, especially for satellites. So rocket, like no rocket, we were not as big as Russia or Soviet Union in the period, but we share a lot of technology with China. We're in the sixth generations already of the space technology development. So this seems like gonna increase. We're gonna go to a new level of cooperation with China. So we are seeing movements in that direction. Also aerospace, like we used to have an airplane company here in China, which was a national company. This is also coming. We have also like a lot of financial cooperation. We're trying to increase and strengthening this. Um, uh, this like digital banking. It's like something that there has been a lot of progress, and also banks like Chinese banks coming to Brazil and vice versa. It is increasing. So there is a progressive like perspective of market, especially in high technology. Brazil and China is trying to find place to step in. For example, there's another like exchange that Brazil and China is doing on the agriculture, like equipments for small farms, for family farms. 70% of the food in Brazil is produced by family farms. So they're trying to get this technology from China. And in the last 2 years, MST, the movement in Brazil, has been working hard on this project here, and they're gaining like momentum. They are getting volume, and they're trying to attract industry. So Brazil is living a moment that we are trying to develop a new industrialization for the country, also develop new infrastructure. So this is attracting investment from China to Brazil.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So,
Really,
in fact, this was something that I actually wanted to ask you because the chance of triangulation is actually stronger. Uh, we've been talking with a friend, in Mexico about what is happening with the factories that the Chinese they are opening in in Mexico because of the no, because basically of the tariffs, no, and it's going to be more and more, basically China and Russia as well. I have a Russian wife, I have a daughter which is half Russian, so I go often in Russia, and what they are doing since the beginning of the war and the sanctions, is to try to find alternative ways, and eventually I think that there is a lot of assets in Brazil potentially very good. I mean, I think that what's appealing me in Brazil is that there is a huge potential of assets for being able to connect to so many countries. Also because we remember that the population in Brazil, anyway, it's very. I mean, it's yeah.
yeah.
I mean, there is a lot of Italian, for example. What is your name, Peneluppi? You are Italian, for
We're the
sure.
biggest
There is some.
community out of Italy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I mean, so it's not something that doesn't pass under the table because this is also something potentially really good for keeping globalization. People like me, people like you, that we decided that we don't stay in our own place. We decide to make it global. We became bridge, and the kind of people that we are. We are not even from our own country. You creating yourself, mentality, a chance, think, faster, and, in different way, to get a different approach. And we live with globalization. Now that there is this, I think, silly approach to deglobalization, which is definitely going to fail simply because technologies that are developed now, in particular AI, are meant to be global. And you can stop everything but not technology. By this point of view, sometimes in the other channel that we have, Mind Cathedral, we speaks about AI, we explain, look, AI, the problem with the AI companies is that they need to be global. They need numbers because they need data. If they don't get the data updated, they waste. They go back. They become useless. So the thing is that in order to do that, they need to do it. It doesn't matter what the politics, what 80 years old people that they probably they don't even know how to open the computer think.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter because you don't stop technology. It's just a matter of time. And this is why we are talking together, because we want a perspective to the future, because we have to know that in the moment that the young population of Brazil will be grown, and they will have in the end, probably thanks to China, because China, you probably know that is doing a lot of implementation in Africa. For example, in Africa, the AI tool, the AI software from China, they are for free. So if you get the the VPN on an African country, you can get them for free. But anyway, just a trick.
Nice.
But this is also one perspective that could go with Brazil, triangulation, and semiconductors as well, factories opening there, robotics, and all the kind of structures that here are suffering in some way because of the tariffs. So I want to discuss with you this perspective to the future, if you feel stimulated by that.
Well, I'm like just burning here. Like first, like I think when we talk about this whole trade war with the United States and China right now, I think you place it well when like Mexico is having trouble too, and old partners, because the thing is like everybody was still trying to find a way to the market of United States. Now like China understood that like no, there's no way. We gotta have to find a new market. And in this moment of a new market, we gotta develop a new partner. United States is the key partner of China. If China is growing, it's because there is a partnership with the United States. So who can replace it? So most of the Chinese are being saying Brazil. And in this visit, like listen, the last visit of Lula to China was something out of normal. You could run Brazil from China in the moment. We had 12 ministers here. We had 4 presidents of federal institutions like the central bank, like the national bank, like the Bank of Brazil, the other institutions. I won't name them all right now. So like there is a huge perspective and potential for the Brazilian market right now to replace the American market because, as you said, it's not just Brazilians. We have 206 million Brazilians. And if we connect a better infrastructure to the whole South America, I'm not talking the whole Latin America, we're talking about jumping to 400 million, 500 million people, which is like almost the size, a bit more than, it's like almost like Europe plus a bit more, or United States and Canada together. So this is a huge market. That's like really something to develop.
And with a different mentality, with a more adaptive mentality.
Exactly, more open, more adaptive, and that needs a full structure. So there's a lot of market to develop in those places, and not just for themselves, but to bridge not just inside of South of Latin America, but to Africa, to Europe, places that we have historical connections. As I said, we have the biggest Italian community in Brazil, the biggest German community in Brazil, we have the biggest Japanese community in Brazil.
Japanese, so
there's a whole world that can connect there. And these bridges that all Latin American countries can represent, or South American countries can represent, is a potential market to, give flow to what U.S. it's closing down right now. And that's the point where we have to connect it right now, in my point of view. We got to think about the Belt and Road Initiative. When it was sought back there in 2013, was the fear that the globalization could be stopped. Because without globalization, without international trade, no market can survive. The cause is not good for anybody. If we think about back in history when the great civilizations, the Roman civilization or the Greek civilization exists, they all worked within the Belt and Road Initiative. So China is recovering human history. It's not Chinese history. It's human history, right? Marco Polo itself is a key name for bridging China and the West. Why? Because market. China is international policies is economical. It's not interventional. It's not about sending troops or making bases. It's about sending its goods. It has always been. That's their history. So what we are seeing right now, it's exactly what you were placing, like a development of a market, not ending globalization. Globalization should develop in a new way, in a multilateral way. That's the role of the BRIC banks, the NDB. I think another thing that was very good that you pulled me, like make me wonder a lot, was the data. When we talk about the next step for human evolution, when it comes to scientific, industrial, like the fourth revolution of industrialization, it depends on big data. When Tesla come to China, it didn't come to China because China is beautiful or ugly, nice, or no. It was like a lot of people buying my goods that can train my cars to self-driving cars. China, any city that has more than 10 million people already have testing cars self-driving. I can order a self-driving taxi here in Wuhan already for the last 5 years. Can Tesla do that? No. You can buy cars in China.
Really already? Okay, yeah. I mean, that anyway, the key role of the self-driving cars, the electric cars is also that, that factories will turn into robotics really soon. So, I mean, it's going to be a factory that is going to create the most, it's going to be the same as the cell phone. Everybody will have the robot Sodom, I mean, actually the guy, the girl, probably.
A
I
battery.
don't.
Remember, a car will be a moving battery. The future is the car moving to charge the society. Right now, the carbon society that we live, we put all our energy to be burned by the car. In the future, the movement of the car will charge our life. We won't be putting fuel. We're going to take fuel from the car. That's the future. That's why robotics. That's why self-driving cars got to keep moving to generate energy. Right now, it's still spending, so it's still not there yet. We're a few steps to go. That's when AI come to the game, and AI needs big data. That's why TikTok was strong and it's still strong. It doesn't respect borders because you want to isolate your information. No problem. You can do. What we need is just to train the machine to improve. Xi Jinping, the president of China, he's calling these the new forces of the production. New productive forces are crucial for the next step of evolution of like industrialization, as you well place it. Robotics everywhere at home. There's a big plan for like treating elders in China, and we'll demand robotics. We won't have that will be the first time in human history that we will have more old people than young people. Who's gonna take care of these elders? We need robots. We need a system that can support this future. And I think like this cannot be done by only one country. It needs cooperation, as you place it. We need science. We need exchange from different sides of the planet because nobody can build the solution by itself. As it's so the space like program of China, it's more and more getting involved with other nations. By the way, when Lula came to China now, in his first stop, he stopped in Russia. One of the key programs that he signed there is scientific development for space development. So he will have like a special space like program with Russia. And there's a new market floating from there. And another program that he signed with China was also in the space program. So there's increase of these needs because we need different sides of the planet cooperating. We have different needs to manage. When we talk about global warming, the climate change, we're talking about different parts. What affects Brazil doesn't stop in Brazil. It comes to China. It goes to Russia. So not for the last, Lula also went to Russia to debate the history. We cannot forget who put an end in the Second World War was first Russia. Was Soviet Union in that time. So this must be remembered. Why? Because that's human history, not for ideology, not for any other issue, but human history. Gotta remember our history so we don't
Evolution.
Exactly, evolution. So I think President Lula is playing an important role in this sense. I think this relation between those countries is to build a multipolar world. It's not about building, walls or separation or blocks. No, as more blockers we have, better we'll have the economy or the development of the scientific exchange. So I think that's the progress right now. U.S. is like changing its way in the wrong time. That's the time the U.S. could be leading the world as a free mind, as a free entrepreneur, as like a creation center, as a reference for the Western world. So if they are not willing to lead in this new step of human evolution, other nations will do, and Brazil is stepping on it. And we're stepping as a country that don't want to see poverty in the world anymore, and we don't want to see aggression against the environment. We must find a new way to be in an ecological civilization worldwide. So I think that's the exchange that's happening. That goes in the market sense, that goes in the technology sense, and I think that was the best I could do with what you poked me right now.
Correct.
It's good
Correct.
discussion. Yeah.
I want to ask you a last question that is about aspects that are more related to my experience, let's say, to the cultural part of this link, because I work in media, and recently, actually, I have a familiarity with some people that they are creating a sort of BRICS foundation, a group of entrepreneurs, that they want to make trading more flow between the countries of the BRICS, because the alliance between the countries, of course, they're very important, politically wise, but then you need actually to make it flow trading wise, currency wise. And another things that I propose is the fact that I'm European, I've been working in media, in particular in films, since all my career, and I love the level. What I did in China is related to that, and so working for this with distributions, working for cultural events like festivals and things like this, because actually this kind of events, this kind of cultural cooperation, co-production, they help the countries to be more connected culturally. They facilitate, the trading, and this is always something that we was working. And so I was thinking that because many of the countries of the BRICS, that it is not actually experience, but think the BRICS Film Festival was something to bring, like films from all these countries and have exposure in each one of these countries with such a big audience. That's something that would be really helpful. So what I want to ask you, what could help in the BRICS, in particularly from Brazil, which is a country that the image we have from Brazil is dancing. So, it's a country that has such a powerful culture, it's such an amazing place for holidays, So, how can be improved by the point of view of Brazil, this kind of cultural cooperation?
I think that's a wonderful question. Especially today, a friend of ours is organizing a small meeting in Shanghai with the cineast, right? Just now, China gave like a free visa for a month for six South American countries to come to China and spend a month. This will increase tourists to come. People will be curious, like I can go for a month, I don't need to apply, I just buy the ticket and then go. So this increase the number of flights. Increase number of flights, cheaper the price. When you talk about South America, China, you're talking about the most farthest place you can go. So if you increase the number of flights, the whole flights in the world become cheaper for the whole world, no? And that's not an overstatement. That's really a fact. So I think people gotta go first. So we gotta attract people for tourism, people for movies, for like painting and like for art. Art is attractive for humans. So we have like musical festivals, we have movie festivals. I think this is really the first step, because when companies goes, it doesn't mean people. It means like a small group, or closed group that has an economical interest that can goes anywhere, anytime, anyway. So what we need to build right now, it's like a new way of development, and this new way of development, it starts from culture. We got to create a cultural civilization.
Exactly. This is the idea.
Change exactly between Russian and China, Russian Italians, Brazilian Italians, Brazil and like anywhere.
Yeah, Italians can stay away, but what I mean is that of course I have the experience. Again, the things that when I came in China, they wanted from me is guanxi, connection with the international market and expertise to do these kind of things. So, from co-productions to how to create a festival. In the bureaucracy itself, there is contracts, there is people to talk with, there is a reputation that, of course, really, actually, Brazil is since a while in international, but to put all of them together, you need to work on that, with expertise. And this is something that actually it has to be done beyond the nationality. This is what I mean. So in this case you create relevance and authority also in the West, because I tell you, if American people, if Hollywood is not really interested into that, I tell you for sure, because I know all of them, people from Locarno Festival, Venice Film Festival, Cannes Film Festival, Berlin Film Festival, absolutely want to be part of that, because Rotterdam, etc. I don't want to mention all of them. Absolutely, they will want to be part of this. In general, I think that what is missing in the bridge is a cultural image, a strong cultural image, and this is something that I think we should discuss more about. Putting more people on the bridge. It would be nice to have a China Beijing society, China BRICS society, or a Beijing BRICS society, that put together all people, because I know a lot of people from Russia, of course, Chinese people. I know a good part of the community there in Brazil. Now I know you as well. But I know, that we are really good friends. I know people from all of the countries of the BRICS, basically. here, but I don't see them together. That's interesting,
Yeah, like,
because you.
it's still very hard. I see from the meetings like how hard it is for the integration. First, there's a huge challenge of language. We're talking about Chinese, Russian, two very difficult languages. Indian, like I think like it's still like even South Africa, like it has many languages, but like English. Brazilians don't usually speak English. We're very a lot of people have this impression of Brazil as an international place, but we're very far from the world. So like people usually tend to speak just Portuguese. So it's very hard to like bridge Brazil to the world. It's a faraway flight. From Europe is 12 hours. From Africa is 12 hours. So we're kind of isolated. So I think indeed, like we're gonna have a hard time to build this community. But that's the challenge. That's the
Yeah, but
beautiful thing.
isolation gives also safety. I mean, it's some, and also people like you actually that you have the chance to travel, you have the will to travel, you have the skills, to bridge, and this is something that, of course, is part of your life and family and heritage. Cultural heritage is
Indeed.
it's key for this kind of improvement. I know that you are always busy. I would like to talk with you for hours and hours. It will happen, when you come in Beijing, if we have the chance.
Yeah, we'll find a
I
new
want to
chance.
thank you very much because the information, they are priceless. This is the kind of conversation that you don't see so often in media. Absolutely not in the official media because they don't want. But it's also very very rare also in the alternative media, no, in the social media. So I thank you, Renato Peneluppi, signore e signori,
Grazie
and I
mille.
hope to see you soon for real.
Thank you for the opportunity. I learned a lot here today with you too, and like it was good. You brought my mind to think stuff that I was not really aware, and like, oh, thank you for the chance. Thank you for sharing
We
so much
will
with
have
me.
the chance to talk more. So let me salute my audience, stay, so we talk a little bit more. Ragazzi, come avete visto, un'altra intervista fantastica. Renato è stato gentilissimo e ci ha spiegato un sacco di cose sul Brasile che non ve le dice nessuno. Mi raccomando, iscrivetevi al canale se non l'avete ancora fatto, mettete un like, mettete il solito link se volete offrire la solita ciotola di riso. Vi ringrazio come sempre per i commenti, fatemi sapere cosa ne pensate o se volete andare a vivere in Brasile perché adesso non ce la fate più a stare in Italia, siete i benvenuti, ok? Grazie e alla prossima.
Cari amici, vi chiedo di iscrivervi al canale, suonare la campanella, mettere un like, commentate anche, fatemi sapere cosa pensate e, se vi va, c'è un link a PayPal dove potete offrirmi una ciotola di riso. Vi ringrazio e alla prossima!